Well, greetings everyone, this is Edikawa. I'm making a sort of final preview for the Secret World beta experience. I was partaking in last 3 beta weekends of the Secret World, and somehow I'm still very much over the fence, I must admit, if I should buy the game or not. I don't know. I didn't have so much difficulty deciding whether I wanted to play an MMO or not for, I don't know, a very long time. And just at this moment, I'm still sitting here and pondering whether I really should buy the Secret World or not. And I just don't know. Maybe I toss a coin. I'm going to have to see. Let's start with the impression. First off is character creation. The character creation did somewhat improve from the first 2 beta weekends this time. It's an okay character creation, I think, but it still somehow leaves a bit to be desired. I mean, 2 points is, first, I thought the characters look a bit old or worn out. I can describe it in another way. I wish the characters you would have the chance to make the characters look a bit more smooth, a bit younger. I don't know, they look like worn out workers or something a bit rugged or so. I mean, I'm sure some people like it exactly that way, but I really wish I had more choice in creating a character here visually. The other point is, while the modern clothing looks alright mostly, I felt the faces are a bit too limited. I saw so many clone faces which either looked like my own character or like one NPC was looking like an NPC I had already seen before. The possibilities to make different faces, it somehow lacked sliders. Don't know, making the eyes larger or smaller, raising or lowering eyebrows, something like that to give you the possibility to shape your face a bit more. I mean, it's not so important, but when you have a game where you have video screens where you see your character close up and other NPCs close up, it's a little bit odd when you see, oh, I've seen that face before, which is just additionally, I wish your character would have the choice to answer in those conversations with NPCs. It's a little bit weird when everyone talks to you, but you don't have the chance to say anything. I mean, the ideal point would be like in Star Wars: The Old Republic, when you would have multiple choices to answer, especially in a setting where you are part of 3 factions, like Templars, Illuminati, and Dragon, and you don't have anything to say. At least a preset answer of your character, even if you have no options to answer, it would have been nice if your character replied in some way here and there, especially in those important focal characters in the zones where you wander. That's just a bit an oddity. If my character is mute, if my character doesn't have anything to say, it kind of limits my idea what that character represents. First, as an individual, and second, being a member of one of the 3 factions. I mean, you know, this thing that the Illuminati are all for power and party, then the Templars for their idea of justice, and the Dragon with their chaos and I don't know what. And there is just nothing there where you can represent that by answers or by actions. So I played the first 2 zones, Kingsmouth and Savage Coast, and I remember after Kingsmouth and some point of Savage Coast, I got a phone call for one quest to my Illuminati character, and he was doing some quest, I'm not going to spoil what, at Illuminati headquarters, but it wasn't just telling much. I mean, okay, you can say I'm a rookie, I'm a noob at the Illuminati, but I don't know, I'm sent there by the Illuminati or Templar or Dragon or whatever, and just go there and explore or find out what's going on. I mean, that's a good start, but for a very long time then, at least as far as the better weekends went into the first two zones, there is nothing substantial happening that tells you I'm an Illuminati, I'm out here to grab power or disturb things or get things under control or something that is related to my faction. And I think that is a missed opportunity. I mean, okay, the background I have in mind here would be Star Wars: The Old Republic. As much as I dislike a lot of things about Star Wars: The Old Republic, the one thing that SWTOR made good was if you played for the Sith Empire, if you played for the Republic, you had a direction and even more focused on your class. I mean, okay, the Secret World has no classes, so it would be a little bit difficult to focus it on you individually, but at least it could and should have been stories based on your faction. So you are sent there by the Illuminati to find powers for the power-hungry Illuminati, or by the Templars. They would send you there to bring justice to things in some way, and you would have, I don't know, some alternatives to answer or to react here and there. And I see that as a lost opportunity where my character remains strangely faceless. I mean, there are really strong, important things going on, and you're just one of hundreds, and it doesn't really matter. It doesn't also make a difference. I'm just realizing as a side note. I mean, I know a lot of people dislike phasing from World of Warcraft, but a little bit phasing here and there is something I always thought was a nice idea. If you could gradually clear up the Savage Coast and the Kingsmouth area. Imagine there is this, what is this, Innsmouth Academy, and it is constantly besieged by these demonic dolls or animated things and ghosts and whatnot. Would it be nice if gradually, once you create sigils around the area and battle those things, were gradually on an end point, you would come to a phased Innsmouth Academy where those things, I don't know, maybe not even entirely gone, but visibly diminished, vanished, something would have changed. I mean, you can't make much phasing for the sake of not changing the entire world, but punctual phasing here and there, especially in a plagued scenario like in Kingsmouth and Savage Coast, would really bring you a sense of accomplishment or something, which was one of the things I really missed in SWTOR also, because I went to Taris and no matter what I did on Taris, nothing changed. Okay, we're not talking about Star Wars: The Old Republic, it's just a side note. Going to the next point, the areas I was able to see, Kingsmouth and Savage Coast, looked really great. I thought it was visually very attractive. It was very good filling the concept of a haunted, spooked horror mystery thing. I think that was transported visually very well. And the entire area of Kingsmouth and Savage Coast looked really nice. I liked the setup. It was really like walking inside some mystery movie. It was a little bit a letdown that we weren't able to see the other areas. I really would have liked to compare this, because as interesting as Kingsmouth and Savage Coast are, I was a little bit afraid how the long-term fascination would remain if all the other areas are just the same. But I guess we're either going to see, or if we not playing, of course not. The interesting thing was that, especially in the Savage Coast area, I really felt that it was like a haunted area and a spooking area. I mean, that amusement park was really spooky, and the Black House, if you went inside and experienced that, you probably know what I mean, or that tree house from the kids. That's something that is really transporting the mood of this game very well. And that's a bonus which I really didn't expect to be in the game. That I really felt a little bit like playing in games like Alone in the Dark or Silent Hill games. Just having to look at my notes. The quests on Savage Coast lacked a little bit direction. Or so that was a feeling. When I was at King's Mouth, I had a sort of purpose. I was stranded or entered at a zone, and something were going on, and there were people talking about things, villagers which had lived there or still survived from this catastrophe, and it was giving me a first incentive to explore things. But at the Savage Coast, the quests got a little bit, I don't know, there was just this usual thing that you have from MMOs. You have quest hubs, and there is one or two guys standing, and they're giving you quests. And quests were interesting, but there was no more an overall picture in the Savage Coast, or at least nothing that I could discern. I mean, I can't, for obvious reasons, spoil the main quest or the main background, but it wasn't. I can't really put my finger on it, but I had this feeling like it was a little bit too pointless. Just go there, solve this, and it wasn't leading so much to anything anymore. That was a little bit of a letdown in the Savage Coast area. Difficulty and imbalance. Oh yes, my goodness. That is probably my strongest point of critique. When I entered Savage Coast with my first character from the early beta weekends, I was absolutely totally screwed because I had just randomly picked up some powers, mostly, what was it, magic powers, elementalism and blood magic, I think it was. And I was absolutely screwed because the difficulty of those early mobs when you enter in those where those cars are and the motel is was so unbelievably difficult. There was especially around the motel or behind the motel, the respawn rate was unbelievably high. There is that quest where you have to close those hell gates, those small hell gates around the motel. And it was impossible for me to do because the mobs were respawning considerably faster than I was able to even get to the gate. And only when a lot of players around me were working together somewhat, finally was able to do this. And I had later built with my Illuminati character, which was sword and sword rifle, which was a much better build. But even then, I must say that the difficulty imbalance with the mobs in the Savage Coast is really considerably. There are some mobs which are really, really difficult to kill. Just something like those mushroom things or the wisps. If you accidentally, because the wisps, they fly around in battle and they retreat. And if you have the bad luck to follow them to a second or even a third wisp, you're absolutely screwed. And I think the difficulty of some mobs is just still too strong. And that is at least my personal point of critique. I would just like to feel a bit more heroic, just a tad. I don't need the game to be easy, but many mobs in the Savage Coast area really make me feel like I'm fighting, standing on my toes all the time, and it was just tiring me. Especially, I mean, if you are making this as a duo, or if you make this in a group, if the area has a lot of players around you, it doesn't play such a role. But generally, I felt that soloing in this game was, over time, really tiring me off. I didn't feel like I wanted to solo here. But the point is, for reasons I can't discuss here, most of the time I am soloing. I'm playing at odd times. I like to be on my own, and I have been in guilds, and I can join guilds or get groups, but it's something that doesn't really work for me, because let's go into this topic would be for another video. Safe to say, I would like to solo, but soloing in the secret world just is a chore most of the time. There are many mobs, there are super fast respawn rates, and while there are places and avenues you can walk not meeting any mobs, the world is crowded with fast respawning mobs, and you just can't avoid them, because essentially there are no invisibility skills or something like that, at least as far as I was able. When I created a second character in SWTOR, I created one who could stealth, so I could avoid mobs and go directly to certain quest points I had already seen. And in this game, you can't avoid them. There is no stealth. You have to confront all the mobs in your pathway. And I don't know, I felt that this was a little bit strenuous to me over time, especially because while combat animations did improve, they're just not exciting. I'm sorry, they're just not exciting. After I had really played my Illuminati character with swords and sword rifle a longer time, I had a considerably large assortment of powers I could choose from. But the realization I had was that I just had essentially one combination of powers that really worked well. I mean, I could alter it, but I understood when I really altered it, it took me a way long time to really get into that again. And so I tended to stick with one power set, which I had figured out after a while, which was really working well for me. But the problem was, it was just getting dull. I was pressing button 2 and 3, for instance, over and over. 2, 3, 2, 3, and then a finisher for 4 or 5. And at emergencies, I had 6 and 7 to press for self-heal or block system, but generally it was very repetitive. And visually what we see is, in combat terms of combat animations, just nothing to write home about. I mean, it's not bad, it has improved, but it's just nothing like, I mean, if you take as comparison Guild Wars 2, watching Guild Wars 2 combat animations is always fun. It's just fun to see them. Secret watching them is okay, it's functional, but it doesn't entertain you, it doesn't thrill you. And that combat really, really gets dull if you solo it, if you're just depending on yourself. And over time, I just felt like, okay, I've seen this enough time. I just felt bored from combat. Let's see what else. Soloability, PvP. I'm just talking a little bit about PvP. They have this 2 war zones, I think, and one that is like an open zone. Or at least it's a large zone where you can capture strategic points or conquer facilities of the enemy. It was a fun Zerg, but I didn't feel that I would ever play Secret World PvP a long time. It wasn't just interesting enough. I can't exactly say why, but one thing is, of course, that again the combat paths are not so interesting, and mostly people were just running around zerging like silly, and it was hilarious fun, but I don't think it is anything that has a lasting appeal. Finally, overall, as I said initially, I'm having a great difficulty to make my final verdict about the Secret World, because, you know, I like the setting a lot. I like the novelty of a lot of the aspects, like the ability wheel and so forth, but the difficulty in soloing in some points, that it feels like a chore. It feels strenuous to me. is something that really pushes me off, and I'm still pondering whether I should order the Secret World or not. Probably if it were cheaper or if it was free to play and not had a monthly fee, I would consider it more likely. But paying, I don't know, almost $50 here in Europe for the Secret World, and then an additional monthly fee of, I don't know what it is, 14 euro or something, is just hindering me at the moment to really and seriously consider pre-ordering this game right now, because the combat is just the point where I find the game too boring, too repetitive, too uninteresting, and there are just a ton of possibilities, but most of them don't work. I mean, you can combine everything with everything in theory, but in practice, most combinations just won't work, because a lot of mobs are just very dangerous, very difficult, and it's just not interesting enough to be in this combat for a very long time. And if I had, I don't know, a buddy or a friend who was really playing along with me all the time and we could play as a duo, that would be the way to play Secret World for me, because it would go fast, it would go a bit easier. But being probably forced to solo it most of the time, because I don't do pickup groups, period, I'm just really not sure whether I will go to buy this. Giving a final verdict is, as a result, a difficult thing. It highly depends on your preference, if you like that kind of combat or not. I would give it a 7 of 10, plus minus 1, depending on what you like or dislike. Well, that's my impressions from the Secret World. Let me hear what you think about it. Take care.